It's King Tom! Open the gate!
What brings you here, King Tom? Johann has directed me to gather troops. We are to meet at the Waterfall Fort and march on Mount Torrent. Commander, gather all the men you can muster, quickly. Johann wants us there as soon as possible. Captain, an army of Cornornians are approaching! They must have followed you here. Quick, to arms!
Come out, Tom, or must we break in?
I'd like to see you try and take this fort.
So be it! Attack!
There's just too many of them. We have to keep fighting for Aerodas! No!
It's over. Your time has come. Aerodas's time has come. Mountains can crumble down. Wind can wear away the strongest stone. All steel can be melted down by the fire. Nature takes its course on life, but life has a way of taking an unusual turn. Mountains can be mined through. Trees can be cut down. Men can be killed. All stories must come to an end. This is where yours ends.
Shing! King Gilligan, but how? You sent me to live with King Zion, and we answered the call to arms. We were just on our way to the Waterfall Fort. That is when we heard a battle, and it looks like we arrived in the nick of time. We? See for yourself, my friend. Attack! Now, Gilligan, we march to the Waterfall Fort, and after that, to Mount Torrent.
The rumors say that Johann is gone. They say he left on a boat to never return. The tale of that man is a pity. He lost his wife and his sons. Some even say his grandsons. The pitiful wretch abandoned us all because of his own troubles. That is not true. Johann did not abandon us in the way you seem to believe, nor have his heirs vanished from Eldsland. I happen to know why he left. How? Were you a companion of Johann? Johann's troubles began a long time ago. Johann grew up as all of the kings of Aerodas do. He was a ranger. Unlike other kings, Johann's father died rather unexpectedly at the age of 40. Johann not only grieved the loss of his father, but the responsibility of being a king. The man understood what most do not. Being a king of Aerodas takes a lot of responsibility. After his coronation, Johann felt the threat of war almost every day. Little did he know his future, but his demise was hidden all along. All of us can testify, Johann brought about the golden age of Aerodas. He did things no one had done, but like us all, Johann could not evade his own fate. I remember Johann's family. I was hired to help out in the Great Hall. Johann had 8 great sons, but for some reasons unknown to me, the people of Aerodas forgot about the 8th when he vanished mysteriously. Johann's daughters were excellent young ladies. I watched his children then flourish in learning, knowledge, and the art of the rangers. His sons were noble warriors who led his armies throughout the kingdom. Every time I met him, Johann was a polite, modest man, especially for someone of his power. Johann and I should have realized we were overlooking something when his son, named Sehun, disappeared in the land of Koronor. As mold slowly infects old vegetables, so Johann and I realized our demise. We attributed his disappearance to some mishap. However, Johann did not delay in contacting the King of Koronor and sending search parties. We should have known something was amiss. One year, Johann woke me with grave news. One of the council members, King Zion, was attacked by Koronorian knights while traveling to Linguator. Johann called a special session of the council to discuss these events with King Gilligan of Koronor. Johann and the rest of the council concluded that bandits were probably responsible. If not the bandits, the merchants of Koronor were probably behind things. Groups of bandits and traders would rise then fall rapidly, and the merchants had a tendency to deal with mischief. We were wrong. Neither were responsible. If only Johann and I had acted then. In the coming years, Johann and I took little mind of these strange events, thinking matters would level out eventually. Little by little, these peculiar events increased. Villages around the outposts of Sir Baranor were openly attacked by Cornorian knights. King Gilligan of the Marble Halls in Cornor was powerless to stop them. While Johann and the council puzzled over this, King Joran and his men were attacked in Remington by more Cornorian knights. Remington was burned to the ground before help arrived. Even King Joran was slaughtered. The attacks on the villages were a mere distraction. Remington was their real prize. These events convinced Johann and the council that something was definitely amiss. In all their careful decisions and wise observations, they had overlooked something dangerously important. One day, a messenger came to Johann with terrifying news. In the land of Cornor, the Dark Lord challenged him to a battle on the fields of Wogun in 3 days. The Dark Lord had returned. Johann was not expecting this. In Arodas's current state, it would take well over a week to mobilize the army from their defensive positions. In light of this, the king had 3 options. He could accept the challenge and face a powerful enemy with barely a sufficient army. He could delay the battle and not show up, or he could only send some of his men and attack later with his full strength. In his situation, there was no time to think. He had to choose. Johann decided to attack with everyone he could gather by the day the Dark Lord appointed. His choice produced major consequences. Johann armed the men at the Great Hall and sent me to gather troops from the south. In addition, he sent messengers to the council members who were spread around the country, informing them of the battle and requesting immediate aid. He notified Berodin, Linguator, and the Green Kingdom, even though not a single soldier would arrive in time. Johann was not leading his men to their certain deaths. He had a plan. The king and several of his trusted companions acquired a small ship, disguised themselves, and headed to Hook's Bay. Here, Johann hoped to find one of the old pirate lords, or even the Pirate King. The pirate lords were the only civilized bandits on the sea. In the past, Arodas was friendly toward them, but the navy of Arodas broke these relationships. It did not take long for Johann to find them. However, the pirate lords refused to join Arodas's cause. Their king, who favored Arodas over the Dark Lord, was dead. I now know the Dark Lord killed him, like many other friends of Johann's cause. This left the pirate lords divided. Johann left empty-handed. I remember the day. I remember when Johann led us against the Dark Lord. We sailed across the river on ships the day before the Dark Lord decreed. It took several hours for everyone to gather on the banks of the river. Everyone knew we did not have enough men. I thought no king could encourage an uneasy army like us. Johann is not an ordinary king. He spoke to us. My men and comrades, it is no secret. This is a battle that we should not be able to win. There is in fact no way for me to ask anyone to stand at the front and look evil right in the eyes. You all have the right to leave. The ships are waiting on the shore, but I will stand at the very front even if no one stays. Arodas possesses one great weapon, hope. With that great speech, Johann led us to battle. To my surprise, not a single man left. There was something about Johann, something down to earth and sensible. Even the cowards did not dare abandon him. It was a dirty victory. Although Johann led his men to a great one, the toll was immense. One of Johann's sons died in the battle. We would all have perished if it were not for an unplanned ally. 3 pirate lords came to our aid and rescued us from the Cornorian navy. By doing this, they broke the sacred code instilled by their deceased fathers. Choosing to go to war almost annihilated all chances of survival. The greater threat still remained. The Dark Lord had retreated to his impenetrable fortress, Mount Torn. Mount Torn is the most massive fortress in all of Yulsland. The Dark Lord's twisted magic and the labor of his men carved it out of solid rock. Mount Torn has dozens of levels stretching from deep below Torn's roots to high summit. In the center of this terrible place is a great black tower. The tower passes through every level of the fortress. It can only be accessed by narrow stone bridges, which are protected by archers. There are 2 spiral staircases on the inner edge of the tower. This leaves a large hole, I'd say about 30 feet wide, between the stairs, so one bad step would send you spinning to the lowest level, thousands of feet below. The stairs meet at the top of the tower in the only room, the Dark Lord's private chamber. Protruding from the tower are 3 large platforms that are fully equipped with battlements. This palace of evil stood unchallenged to the northwest of Cornor's realm. 3 days after the Battle of the Fields of Wogun, Johann's allies, Berodin, Linguator, and the Green Kingdom arrived. Johann and everyone he could gather set out for Mount Torn. For days we held our siege against the enemies. On the 3rd day, Johann and I began to realize that a siege was as hopeless as a direct attack. The Dark Lord's forces greatly outnumbered us, and his goblins would never run out of food. Johann gathered a small group of men to penetrate the fortress and assassinate the Dark Lord. He chose 2 rangers named Jack and David, his best fighter, one of his remaining sons, and myself to accompany him on this grave quest. We armed ourselves and waited. Johann ordered the troops to beat down the main gate. Once the gate was penetrated, we slipped inside the fortress, hidden among the chaos. Johann led us to the tower. Then we climbed the innumerable steps to the top floor, shooting archers as we went. As I climbed the steps, my conscience had no idea what would we behold. I bursted into the room only to see the Dark Lord himself. He stared at us with his dark, malicious eyes and pale composure. Despite his sickly appearance, he looked like a polite man. The Dark Lord was not only surprisingly evil in the room. Behind the Dark Lord stood Johann's son. The rest of my comrades stumbled into the room, but we all stood still, astounded by the betrayal we beheld. Then the Dark Lord jerked to the side and began to pace while glowering at us. The Dark Lord then began a speech I will never forget. When will a man know, Johann, that he is dead? When will he know to give up? When will he know that his life is a lie, and it will end not only in his destruction, but the utter destruction of everyone and everything he once held dear? It has been prophesied that even his sons will not live. He blindly followed the shadow of his father, what he thought was greatness. I followed in the shadow of ultimate power. When will he know, Johann, that he might as well kill himself? This is the great demise of Johann. Johann, the Dark Lord continued, people will not listen to you, kings or rangers anymore. Erodas, Korinor, even your enemy Altrahan, they will all fall to me, and I don't have to move a finger. Culture and power will call them. You know as well as I do, people will follow the crowd. I provide power. The people are going to come even if you live. All that remains of Erodas after this day will come to me of their own freedom. Pah! Johann, your death is sealed, he said, and you know what I say is true. Who then dares to face me? Johann's greatest fighter attacked the Dark Lord, but he struck him down. You cannot take everything from us, I replied. There are good deeds which will stay in Erodas for eternity. There are people whom you can't kill, memories you won't demolish. Johann did not follow the quest of ultimate power, but you cannot fully destroy him or me. At this, the Dark Lord stepped back astonished. He could not grasp the fact that someone was challenging him. Johann did not have time to fight. I walked past him and began to fight the Dark Lord. From here, I drove the Dark Lord outside onto the platform. Little by little, the Dark Lord's influence on us diminished. The rest of the fight was a blur of stabs and jabs. Before I could catch my breath, I dominated over the enemy, and he fell off the tower. To this day, I still do not know how I killed the Dark Lord, but it was obviously a gift from something greater. Meanwhile, Johann's evil son Seihan began to attack. Johann's oldest son, Iohan, stepped up to his brother. The 2 siblings fought. In the end, Seihan stabbed his brother, but fell on the floor exhausted. The 2 rangers and Johann watched the event shocked. Then Johann stood up and cried, Behold, brother fights against brother, sibling against sibling, young against old. Stop, O ye servants, O ye traitors, O ye rangers, O ye brothers and sisters. Johann's plea echoed about the entire fortress, whether out of respect of Johann's request or a lifted spell from the death of their master, I do not know, but every goblin, every evil man, and every servant of the Dark Lord laid down their arms. By evening, the fortress was in Erodas's control. However, business remained undone. While others rescued the injured and gathered the dead, Johann walked over to his last son, Seihan. Seihan was still alive, but he rested on the ground. The great king swung his sword to Seihan's neck. He stopped before it touched his son, and flung his sword down the tower. Son, you are all I have left, Johann whispered. I am willing to accept you, if you but turn from your ways. You are my son whom I love. Please come back to me, I pray you, let us cast out this pain together, as father and son. In that moment, Seihan felt free. He longed to return to his father and to be forgiven of his mistakes. Thinking Seihan had refused, Johann began to walk away. As he did this, Seihan lifted himself off the ground, leaning on his sword for support. Johann turned around to accept his son. Seihan, however, staggered and fell down the tower. Johann's efforts were too late. A while later, my brother Johann told me, Alas, may my life bless those who come after me. It has done me little good in this world. Behold, the war is won, yet victory has not yet come. The sun has set on my life and on Erodas. In 7 generations may it rise when my last sons die. I do believe that he found peace on the seas. My work is complete. Now I must go and find him, because my fortune is linked with his.
Wait! In your story, if Johann didn't abandon us, Where is he? He has gone to an island, a forbidden island, where no evil will roam. He has prepared it for trusted allies. That is where I am going, to join him. Wait, are you really who you say you are? Johan's brother? I am, and I bid you a farewell. Welcome to the Forbidden Island.
I saw the light fade from the sky. On the wind I heard a sigh. As the snowflakes cover my fallen brothers, I will say this last goodbye. Night is now falling, so ends this day. The road is now calling, and I must away over hill and under tree, through lands where never light is shone, by silver streams that run down to the sea. Under cloud, beneath the stars, over snow on winter's morn, I turn at last to paths that lead home. And oh, where the road then takes me, I cannot tell. We came all this way, but now comes the day to bid you farewell.